Today's guest is a Trekkie from way back. He's produced his own fan film, and I'm going to be bringing it to you straight after this. Aaron Vanderkley is a graduate from Murdoch University in Perth. He's produced his own Star Trek fan film set in the Enterprise era, running just over 6 minutes and featuring amateurs on the crew. It's an absolutely perfect fit for CBS's brand new guidelines. He is coming up very shortly for a chat in the Perth studio, but he has given me permission for you to check out The Needs of the Many.
Lieutenant Lewis on the bridge, go ahead.
Oh, hello. Yes. It's so good to hear a friendly voice.
Who's this?
Oh, sorry. This is Crewman Parker. Do you know what happened?
Bridge detected a subspace distortion up ahead. Turns out it was a cloaked mine.
I guess we're lucky to still be in one piece.
You and me, maybe. Bridge crew are dead. Internal sensors are down. I can't even scan the rest of the ship for survivors. Whereabouts are you?
B deck, section 47. I don't suppose you could send a turbo lift down to come and get me?
Afraid not. All ship systems are down. Wait.
What's wrong?
Internal communications are down too, yet there's channels open.
Oh, that was me. I hardwired a communicator into the comms line. There's one that runs directly underneath your console.
Are you an engineer?
Straight out of the academy.
You're new.
Afraid so.
Is it always like this?
Not if you're lucky. Listen, I could use your help up here. If I remember correctly, there's a crawlway in the next section to you.
There is. There just might be a slight problem, though. There's an emergency bulkhead sealed between me and it.
Great.
Sorry.
What for?
It's not very clever getting stuck like this.
It's not your fault. Anyway, it's pretty clever hardwiring a communicator into the comm line.
Like I said, I'm an engineer. It's my job to think outside the box.
Feel free to share any ideas you have. Yes, external sensors are back.
I thought you said the ship systems are down. Why are we still moving?
How can you tell we're still moving?
I can feel it through the deck plate.
Impressive. Wait a minute. You're right. We never made it to that subspace distortion. In fact, we're still drifting towards it. Towards a minefield. 2 minutes till we reach the edge.
Well, then you better turn us around.
I can't. Helm control's offline. All I need to do is fire the maneuvering thrusters for about 5 seconds. Wait a minute. You said section 47. There should be a power distribution box in your section.
There is.
Well, open the access panel and shunt all the power directly to the bridge. You can use the same direct line you're using to talk to me. Surprised you didn't think of it.
I did. But there just might be a slight problem with that as well.
Why, what's wrong? Are you okay?
Yes.
Are you injured?
No.
Are you lying?
Yes.
Crewman! Crewman!
The box is open.
Are you still there?
Yeah.
What's wrong?
I'm sorry that was painful. You didn't have to go through with that.
It's alright. I was getting tired of sitting on the floor anyway.
This isn't a joke.
Well, it's the only way I'm coping at the moment. Is that okay, Lieutenant Lewis?
It's Ben. You?
Elizabeth. Preparing to shunt the power. Ah.
What's wrong?
Do you remember that bulkhead? The one that sealed me in this section.
What about it?
The power in this box is the only thing keeping the magnetic seals in place. On the other side of this bulkhead is a hull breach.
Forget it then. Look, I'm gonna sever this comlink. Maybe someone had the same idea as you did. They may be trying to get through.
Time till we reach the minefield?
Long enough.
Don't lie to me when I'm about to die. It's not very polite.
This isn't funny.
Neither is the minefield. This is the only way.
I'm cutting this line. Hang tight. That's an order.
Please don't leave me. Not now.
You don't have to go through with this.
Time till impact?
20 seconds. You don't have to throw your life away.
How does the saying go? Needs of the many?
Oh, don't give me that crap. We don't even know how many people are still alive.
I'm doing something clever. It's my job, remember? Thinking outside the box. Never pictured myself dying in a hull breach.
Elizabeth.
Thank you, Ben.
For what?
For not hanging up on me. Good chat.
Wow, Aaron, that looks absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today, man.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Tell us about the short story.
So basically, the story actually originally wasn't supposed to be a Star Trek story. I was doing a show where I live. It was War of the Worlds by Orson Welles. It was a radio adaptation, a stage play. And while I was on stage, I just started writing some notes. I was fascinated by the idea that this story was constructed using phone conversations between characters, and I guess this sort of disaster-style situation where you have like a 911 dispatcher talking to someone in distress, a victim in distress, and the relationship between those two people, how it's really interesting that you can rely solely on someone's voice in a time of need, and that's where the story basically came about. Star Trek really was just a setting for a very simple human story.
And what got you started with Star Trek? Have you always been a fan?
So my dad got me into Star Trek. My dad grew up watching Doctor Who, Thunderbirds, Lost in Space, Star Trek. I watched them all when I was a kid. I enjoyed them so much. It was something obviously that we bonded over. From that, I learned how to make sets and props, to help make stories. It was just like a second world to me of all this wonderful wealth of storytelling, and I was hooked on Star Trek. I grew up watching Star Trek Voyager and then Enterprise. They're sort of my guilty pleasures. I can always go back and watch Voyager for fun, and yeah, that's basically what got me into filmmaking.
Are you studying at university at all?
I am a graduate, so I studied about 2 years ago. I graduated 2 years ago doing screen production at Murdoch University in Perth.
Oh, fantastic.
And so right now I'm a freelance filmmaker.
So what other sort of projects have you got going on at the moment?
At the moment, we just finished a contract with the Catholic Education Office in WA, producing some content for a national conference that they just held over the last weekend. So it was going out to schools, interviewing students, and things like that. So it was a long 4-week process, but it's all over now, and it certainly was worth it.
Absolutely, it sounds absolutely fascinating. So, did you back on Needs of the Many? Did you face any challenges producing that? Were they real sets that you were working on?
Yeah, absolutely. They were real sets. Like I said, the story originally wasn't supposed to be a Star Trek story, but I actually had the set pieces for another project that I didn't end up producing. And yeah, we basically sort of dusted these old sets off. I got one of my very talented friends, Andrew David, to come help me rebuild some sets, build a studio space for the project. And yeah, we lit it, tried to make it as close as possible to the Star Trek TV series, Star Trek Enterprise, pulled together some costumes, some props, and yeah, basically went from there.
And I'm not sure whether you're up on the current story that's grabbing all of the headlines in the Star Trek fan community at the moment with the production called Axanar. Are you aware of what's going on with all of that?
I am, unfortunately.
What's interesting about that I found, and what drew me to Needs of the Many, was the fact that these new guidelines that CBS have come out with, and many people are responding to those, saying that it's absolutely impossible. Fan films will never be able to be made again with these strict conditions. What drew me to the Needs of the Many was the fact that you're well under 15 minutes, you're all amateurs, and you're using a very simple premise to tell an absolutely fantastic story. And there was no need, and of course I'm like you. I would love to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on cool visual effects shots and that sort of stuff. But in the end, what you've proven is that you don't need all of that to make a really cool production.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I wanted to do something that was achievable on the budget that I had, which was zero. But yeah, I mean, you know, I think the real shame, and I guess what's got people really disappointed in the situation, is that shows like Star Trek Continues, who have been producing these amazing episodes of Star Trek, that they want, you know, they've been telling, 45-minute episodes now. Can they do one for 15 minutes? You know, can they use the actors that they've been using? You know, it's really opened up a can of worms as to what happens now.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I had the chance to interview Vic Mignogna last week, who of course plays Captain Kirk, and his biggest concern is what does the future hold? Obviously, I had a chat with him before the guidelines came down, so it's still a question of how's this all going to work. But it's just devastating that one guy decided to take everything too far. On Needs of the Many, would you like to have done something bigger and even cooler?
Of course, absolutely. If I had access to the talent, I would love to have done some like visual effect shots. I would love to have built more expansive sets. Actually, to be honest, the bridge set that we had was a lot bigger than what you saw on screen. But for that kind of story where it was quite tense and high drama, it wasn't really necessary to show any more of it. But yeah, I would, if I had the resources, I would have loved to tell, a much larger story. But yeah, I basically had what I, had and made a story that I could.
Yeah, my biggest question after watching the short is what happens to the crewmen?
I honestly have no idea. I never really thought beyond that, and actually, I guess that's sort of a good telling of the story that I wanted to convey to the audience, was that it really wasn't a question of whether they survive or not. It was a question of sacrifice. It was a question of duty and honor, I guess. And in that situation, with all those people at risk, could you lay down your own life to save other people? And yeah, whether they survived or not, who knows? That's for a sequel, maybe.
Well, absolutely fantastic. Aaron, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for heading into the studio in Perth to have a chat, and really appreciate your time.
No worries. Thank you very much for having me.